Somewhere deep in the empty quarter of the Arabian desert, buried under thousands of tons of shifting sand, lies a city that was once said to be more magnificent than Rome, more wealthy than Babylon, and more advanced than any civilization of its time. The Quran calls it Iram al-Emad, Iram of the Pillars. For centuries, historians laughed at this story. They said it was just a fairy tale, a myth invented by Bedouins to scare travelers at night. They claimed that a city of gold, built by a race of giants, simply could not exist in the middle of a barren wasteland. But then, in the 1990s, NASA satellites peered down from space using radar technology that could see through the sand. And what they found shocked the world. There, hidden beneath the dunes, were the tracks of ancient roads, all converging on a single mysterious point. The myth was real, but the story of why this city was buried is far more terrifying than its discovery. It isn't just a story about architecture or wealth. It is the story of the most arrogant man who ever walked the earth, a king who looked at the heavens and decided he didn't need God because he could build his own heaven right here on earth. This is the story of the tribe of Ad, the rise of King Shaddad, and the city that was built to challenge the Almighty. To understand the tragedy of Iram, we must go back to the very beginning. History tells us that after the great flood of Noah, the world was cleansed. The believers who survived on the ark repopulated the earth. Among their descendants was a tribe known as Ad. These were not ordinary men. The Quran describes them with a chilling distinction, the likes of which had never been created in the land. They were physical specimens of absolute perfection. Tall, muscular, and incredibly strong. Some traditions suggest they were of such immense stature that they could rip trees from the ground with their bare hands and carve homes directly into stone mountains. They were the superpowers of the ancient world. No army could defeat them. No empire could challenge them. They lived in a region known as Al-Akaf, the winding sand tracts, located between modern-day Yemen and Oman. But unlike the dry desert we see today, this land was lush, green, and flowing with rivers. With their immense strength came immense pride. The people of aboltheration of the flood. They looked at their own muscles, their fortresses, and their wealth, and they asked a question that would seal their fate. Who is mightier than us in strength? They believed they were invincible. They began to worship idols again, turning away from the God of Noah. They oppressed the weak and ruled with an iron fist, but among them rose two brothers from the royal lineage, Shaddad and Shaddad. After Shaddad died, the entire kingdom fell under the control of Shaddad. And Shaddad was not just a king, he was a narcissist of cosmic proportions. He conquered every tribe around him. Kings from Iraq, India, and the Levant bowed to him. Gold, silver, and rubies flowed into his capital like water. But Shaddad was not satisfied. He felt a void. One day he gathered his advisors and heard them reading from the ancient scriptures. They were describing Jannah, paradise, its rivers of milk and honey, its palaces of pearls, its floors of gold, and its eternal comfort. Shaddad scoffed. He stood up and declared, "Why should I worship a god I cannot see, just to enter a paradise after I die? I have the power. I have the wealth. I will build that paradise right here. I will build a city so magnificent that no one will ever want to look at the sky again. I will make them forget God." And so the order was given. The project of Iram began. Shaddad commanded his governors to scour the earth. He didn't want just rocks. He wanted perfection. Bring me all the gold from the mines. Bring me the silver. Bring me the silver. Bring me musk, amber, and saffron. Bring me the most beautiful chrysolite and rubies. For years, some say for 300 years, the resources of the known world were drained and funneled into the deserts of Arabia. It was an economic vacuum that swallowed everything. The architects designed a city that defied logic. They built walls that were plated with bricks of gold and silver, alternating in layers. Instead of gravel, they scattered pearls and jewels on the streets. They dug canals and filled them not just with water, but with sweetened drinks, mimicking the rivers of paradise. But the most iconic feature, the feature that would give the city its name in the Quran, were the pillars. These were not ordinary columns. They were towering structures cut from single stones, adorned with emeralds and rubies, reaching high into the sky. Iram dat Alimad, Iram of the Pillars. It was a technological marvel, an impossible city built by the sweat of giants and the wealth of the tyrant. While Shaddad was busy building his artificial heaven, the heavens were watching him. God, in his mercy, did not destroy them immediately. As is his way, he sent a warner, a man from among them, a brother, Prophet Hud. Hud was not a stranger. He was from the tribe of Ad. He knew their lineage. He stood in the shadow of their massive pillars and called out to them. He didn't ask for money. He didn't ask for kingship. He asked them to remember the flood of Noah. O my people, worship Allah. You have no other God but Him. Will you not fear Him? He warned them. Do not build on every high hill a monument of vanity. Do not build fortresses as if you will live forever. Be grateful for your strength. Do not use it to oppress. But the people of Ad laughed. They looked at this humble man and mocked him. You, they said, you are just a man like us. You eat what we eat, you drink what we drink. If we follow you, we will be losers. They pointed to their massive towers, their golden walls, their muscles of iron. Who can destroy this? They asked. Did your God promise us punishment? Then bring it. If you are truthful, bring the rain of stones you speak of. Shaddad ignored the warnings completely. He was obsessed. The construction was finally finished. News reached the king. Your paradise is ready. Shaddad's heart swelled with a pride that eclipsed the sun. He prepared his grand procession. Thousands of servants, soldiers, and concubines prepared to enter the city of Iram. He wanted to step into his heaven and declare himself the supreme lord of bliss. He did not know that he was racing toward a deadline that had already been written. He thought he was marching toward eternal life. In reality, he was marching toward a destruction so complete that it would leave scientists baffled thousands of years later. The city was silent. The pearls on the ground were shining. The rivers were flowing. It was waiting for its king. But the wind was beginning to change. The construction was complete. The reports arrived at the royal court that Iram was ready. It was a masterpiece of human arrogance, shining in the desert sun, waiting for its master. King Shaddad could wait no longer. He gathered his massive army, his courtiers and his family, and began the grand march toward the empty quarter. He was so eager to step into his man-made paradise that he rode ahead of his troops. In his mind, he had already won. He had defeated the laws of nature. He had built heaven on earth. He thought he'd defeated the god of Hud. As the procession moved closer to the valley of Al-Akaf, the people of Ud looked up at the sky. For months, they had been suffering from a severe drought. The rivers were drying up. The heat was unbearable. They were desperate for water. Suddenly, on the horizon, they saw something that made them cheer with joy. A massive dark cloud was moving toward them. It covered the entire horizon, black and heavy. The people ran out of their stone houses, pointing at the sky, shouting, Hada, Hadul, Monteruna. This is a cloud that will give us rain. They danced in the streets. They thought their idols were pleased with them. They thought Shaddad's power had brought them relief. They mocked Prophet Hud, saying, Look, you threatened us with punishment, but our gods have sent us mercy. But Hud, ass, looked at the cloud with terror. He knew what it was. He warned them one last time. Nay, it is that which you asked to be hastened, a wind wherein is a painful torment. He told them it was not rain, it was death. But they did not listen. They stood in the open, arms wide, waiting for the cool water to touch their skin. And then, the first drop did not fall. Instead, the temperature plummeted. The air turned freezing cold. A low, terrifying roar began to vibrate through the valley. It wasn't the sound of thunder. It was the sound of a wind screaming. The Quran calls it Rial Sarsa, a furious, screaming, freezing wind. It started slowly, blowing the tents away. Then it grew stronger, stripping the clothes off their backs. Then it became a force that physics cannot explain. The wind was intelligent. It was commanded. It entered their massive stone fortresses, ripping the heavy iron doors off their hinges. The giants of Ad, men who used to uproot trees with their bare hands, found themselves helpless. They tried to hold on to each other, tried to hold on to their pillars, but the wind snatched them up like dry leaves. The description in the Quran is horrifying. It says the wind lifted them into the air and slammed them down, leaving them like stumps of hollow date palm trees. Imagine these massive, powerful men tossed around like rag dolls, their bodies twisted and broken, lying headless on the ground. And what of Shaddad, the man who built it all? Tradition tells us that Shaddad was just one day's journey away from the city. He could see the golden towers shimmering in the distance. He could almost smell the saffron and musk he had ordered to be spread on the streets. He was on his horse, ready to gallop through the gates of his paradise. Just as he lifted his foot to step down from his horse, the wind of fury struck him. He froze. The scream of the wind deafened him. He looked at his beautiful city one last time, so close that he could touch it, yet infinitely far away. He never stepped inside, not a single foot. The wind struck him down right there at the doorstep of his dreams. The sand swallowed him, his army, and his arrogance. For 7 nights and 8 days, the wind did not stop. It was a relentless, continuous roar. It hunted down every last arrogant disbeliever hiding in caves or behind walls. It destroyed everything by the command of its Lord. When the wind finally stopped on the 8th day, there was only silence. The screaming was gone. The cheering was gone. The music was gone. The valley of Al-Akaf was a graveyard. The massive bodies of the people of Ad lay scattered across the sand, slowly being buried by the shifting dunes. Prophet Hud, and the few believers with him had been saved, protected in an enclosure by the mercy of Allah, while the destruction raged all around them. They walked away, leaving the cursed land behind. Over the centuries, the desert did its work. The empty quarter, Rub al-Khali, is known for its shifting sands. A storm can bury a car in an hour. Imagine what thousands of years of sandstorms can do. The golden walls, the emerald pillars, the canals of wine, everything was swallowed by the earth. The city sank beneath the dunes, hidden from the eyes of history. It became a myth. Generations passed. The Arabs told stories of a lost city of gold called Iram, but the rest of the world laughed. Western historians in the 19th and 20th centuries wrote books saying that Iram was never a city. They claimed it was just a metaphor for a tribe. They said the Quran was wrong. They said no such civilization could exist in such a harsh environment. They demanded proof. Show us the pillars, they said. Show us the gold. But the desert keeps its secrets well, until the age of technology arrived. Until humans learned to look at the earth not from the ground, but from the stars. In the 1980s and 90s, a challenge was accepted. A team of amateur archaeologists, inspired by the ancient legends and equipped with NASA space shuttle technology, decided to scan the empty quarter. They weren't looking for gold. They were looking for scars in the earth. And what they saw on the computer screens at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory made their jaws drop. Beneath the chaos of the sand dunes, the radar showed perfect, straight lines. Ancient highways, trade routes that had been buried for thousands of years, and all those roads led to a single specific spot in the middle of nowhere. The coordinates were set. The expedition was launched. They were about to dig for a ghost. The world was about to find out if the fairy tale of the Quran was actually a historical fact waiting to be uncovered. For thousands of years, the city of Iram remained a ghost story. Bedouins whispered about it around campfires, but the rest of the world moved on. Maps of the Arabian Peninsula labeled the empty quarter as exactly that, empty. Terra incognita. Unknown land. But in the 1980s, a man named Nicholas Clapp, a documentary filmmaker and amateur archaeologist, stumbled upon a book called Arabia Felix. It mentioned an ancient track across the desert that led to a lost city called Uba, a name often associated with the Quranic city of Iram. Clapp became obsessed. He wanted to find it, but looking for a buried city in an ocean of sand is like looking for a needle in a haystack, while the haystack is constantly moving. He needed a view from above, He needed eyes that could see what human eyes could not. He contacted NASA. It sounded like a movie script, a filmmaker asking space scientists to help find a lost civilization mentioned in Holy Scriptures. But the timing was perfect. The Space Shuttle Challenger had recently carried a special type of radar known as SIRB, Shuttle Imaging Radar. Unlike normal cameras that just take pictures of the surface, this radar could penetrate feet of dry sand. It could see the ghosts of the ground beneath. When the scientists processed the images of the southern Arabian desert, they were stunned. The desert surface looked chaotic, just endless dunes. But the radar image showed something impossible. Straight lines. These were not natural formations. They were ancient highways, hard-packed tracks created by the passage of hundreds of thousands of camels over centuries. And the most shocking part? All these massive highways converged on a single point in the Dhofar region of Oman, near a waterhole called Shisar. It was the X that marks the spot. In 1990, a dream team was assembled. It included Nicholas Clapp, the famous explorer Sir Ranulph Fiennes, and archaeologist Juris Zarins. They packed their Land Rovers, gathered their supplies, and headed into the harsh desert. They were driving towards the coordinates provided by the spaceship. When they arrived at the site of Shisar, it looked disappointing at first. It was just a small, ruinous Bedouin watering hole. There was no gold, no massive emerald pillars reaching the sky, just rubble and dust. But then they started to dig. As the excavators removed the layers of sand that had accumulated over millennia, the shape of a massive structure began to emerge. It wasn't a village. It wasn't a campsite. It was a fortress. They found walls that were 10 to 12 feet thick. They found towers, 8 of them, placed at the corners and intervals of the fortress. These were the imad, the pillars or towers mentioned in history. The team uncovered pottery shards from Greece, Rome, and Persia. This proved that this place was not isolated. It was a global trade hub. This was the New York of the ancient incense trade. Thousands of tons of frankincense, which was more valuable than gold at the time, had passed through these gates. The wealth of this city would have been unimaginable, but as they dug deeper, they discovered the cause of the city's death. And it sent chills down their spines. It matched the ancient stories with terrifying accuracy. The archaeologists found that the fortress hadn't just been abandoned, it hadn't been conquered by an enemy army. It had collapsed. The entire city was built over a massive limestone cavern filled with groundwater. For years, the people had drawn water from it, unaware that the foundation was weakening. Then, in a single catastrophic moment, the earth gave way. A massive sinkhole opened up. The ground literally swallowed the city. The majestic towers, the thick walls, the storehouses of wealth, half of the city, plunged into a deep abyss in seconds, buried by the rushing sand and debris. The Quranic description of the destruction of ancient tyrants often mentions the earth swallowing them or being buried. While the people of Ad were destroyed by the wind, the physical city itself was consumed by the land, hidden away as if it never existed. When the explorers stood at the edge of the excavation, looking down into the sinkhole that had consumed the fortress, the reality of the discovery settled in. On February 5, 1992, the headline of the New York Times read, "Ubar, fabled lost city, found by LA team." Other newspapers were more direct. They called it the Atlantis of the sands found. Critics who had mocked the Quran for 1400 years were suddenly silent. The book they called a collection of myths had pinpointed a geographical reality. Iram al-Imad, Iram of the Pillars. The discovery confirmed two specific details that skeptics had doubted. First, the existence of a civilization in that specific desolate area. Second, the architectural style of pillars or towers, which was unique and unlike other Arab cities of that time. But the discovery revealed something else, something deeper than just stones and pottery. It revealed the arrogance of power. In the ruins, they found incense burners and luxury items, signs of a people who lived in absolute excess while surrounded by a harsh, unforgiving environment. They believed their wealth and their massive walls would protect them from nature, from time, and from God. But standing there in the 1990s, the explorers were not looking at a paradise. They were looking at a hole in the ground. The gold was gone, the silk was gone, the giants were gone. All that remained were the broken stumps of the towers, a physical reminder of the verse, "Do you not see how your Lord dealt with Ad? Iram of the pillars, the likes of which had never been created in the land." The satellite image from space didn't just show a road, it showed a destination of doom, a coordinate of divine justice. The desert had preserved the corpse of the city for thousands of years, waiting for us to develop the technology to find it, so that we could learn the lesson Shaddad refused to learn. But is this the only Iram? Or is this just an outpost of a much larger, even more magnificent capital that is still hiding deeper in the empty quarter, waiting for the next storm to reveal it? Some archaeologists believe Ubar is just the beginning. The discovery of Ubar in the 1990s was a triumph for archaeology, but it was a somber reminder for humanity. When the explorers cleared the sand from the ruins, they found something profound. They didn't just find a broken fortress, they found a broken timeline. The people of Ad believed they were the final product of human evolution. They looked at their muscles, their gold, and their massive pillars, and they said, "Who is mightier than us?" They thought they had conquered the earth. They thought they had secured their future. But today their eternal city is nothing more than a few broken stones in a hole, surrounded by an endless ocean of silence. The wind that once carried their laughter now only carries dust. This story is not just ancient history, it is a mirror. Look around us today. We are the new Ad. We are the ones building towers that pierce the clouds. We are the ones turning deserts into green cities. We are the ones who believe that our technology, our science, and our money can protect us from anything. We have split the atom. We have walked on the moon. We have connected the entire globe with invisible webs of information. And just like Shaddad, we often find ourselves asking, who is mightier than us? We feel invincible. But the ruins of Iram whisper a terrifying truth. Invincibility is an illusion. The Quran asks a haunting question in Surah Al-Fajr. Have you not seen how your Lord dealt with Ad, with Iram of the pillars, the likes of which had never been created in the land? And then immediately after it mentions, and Pharaoh, owner of the stakes. Why connect them? Because they all shared the same fatal flaw. They built monuments to their own ego. They tried to create a heaven on earth because they didn't believe in the heaven above. Shaddad spent centuries gathering the wealth of the world to build a paradise he never entered. He died with 1 foot in the stirrup and 1 foot on the ground. All his gold could not buy him 1 extra second of life. All his massive walls could not stop a simple wind. It forces us to ask, what are we building? Are we building legacies that will benefit humanity, or are we just piling stones to feed our vanity? The irony of Iram is that the very sand used to hide it is the same sand they walked upon with pride. The earth they tried to dominate eventually swallowed them whole. The Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, passed by the ruins of the people of Tamad, cousins of Ad, during the Tabuk expedition. He covered his face and rode quickly, telling his companions, "Do not enter the dwelling places of these people who wronged themselves unless you are weeping, lest the same calamity befalls you." He taught us that these ruins are not tourist attractions. They are graveyards of arrogance. They are signposts left by God to say, power does not last. Only justice lasts. Today, if you travel to the Shisr site in Oman, you can stand at the edge of the sinkhole. You can touch the limestone blocks that were once part of the pillars of Iram. They feel cold. They feel dead. There is no magic left in them. But if you listen closely to the wind howling through the empty quarter, you might hear the echo of the warning that Prophet Hud gave thousands of years ago. Build for eternity, not for vanity. The city of gold is gone. The king is gone. The giants are gone. But the creator of the wind remains. So the next time you see a skyscraper rising into the clouds or a powerful empire flexing its muscles, remember the city buried beneath the sands. Remember Iram, because history has a habit of repeating itself for those who refuse to read it.